Greetings, family, and welcome back to Raising the Vibe. Thank you for joining me today. I recently made a number of videos about the Federal Reserve for another platform, and I think it would be very useful to share those on my YouTube channel. So take a look at the videos, let me know what you think by dropping a note in the comments, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Peace and love and light. I was also under the impression that the Federal Reserve is not a government agency and that it's a private-owned corporation. But look at what they're telling the public on their website now. So as you can see above, the official storyline is now that the Federal Reserve is an agency of the federal government that reports to and is accountable to Congress. And as you can see below, that the board of the Federal Reserve is appointed by the president and confirmed by the Senate. And to further that position, they also call it the Fed, as you can see below. I circled it above, but I think it's hidden under the comment. And as we can see, there are 12 Federal Reserve banks. But here's the interesting part about that. Each of the 12 Federal Reserve banks is separately incorporated and actually have stock, okay, for a federal agency. Also, as you can see above, although Congress supposedly sets the goals for monetary policy, they tell you right on the website that the decisions of the Federal Reserve Board do not require approval by the president or anyone else in the executive or legislative branch of the government. Not only that, but unlike the other federal agencies we know, this one is not funded by congressional appropriations. They make their money from securities that they own and the fees that they charge to banks. And they claim that they deposit their net earnings in the federal treasury. And these are supposedly the charts showing how much they've deposited in the treasury. They don't tell us anything, at least on their website, about how much they've deposited beyond 2015. But as you can see here, most people in the financial community know that the Federal Reserve pretty much operates independently of the Congress and the president. Here's another clip showing that the financial community knows that the Federal Reserve operates independently, and this even calls it a quasi-governmental agency. And I'm sure nobody's surprised that this is what the makeup of the board looks like. And keeping in mind that they operate independently, it's important to note that they just print money whenever they want to, as you can see above. They're no longer on the gold standard ever since President Nixon. And when they do that, it's a tax on us because it decreases the value of the money in our pockets. And that's the Federal Reserve. So the last thing I wanted to point out about the Federal Reserve is how their current actions are likely to affect workers in the U.S. Take a look at this article. So this article was published just a couple days ago, and the author is telling us that job cuts are starting to roll in the United States. Let's take a look at why. As we can see above, corporate executives are starting to cut jobs because the central bank, that is the Federal Reserve, is aggressively hiking interest rates, which could tip the U.S. economy into a recession. So we see here that companies like Tesla, JP Morgan Chase, Redfin, Coinbase, Netflix are announcing layoffs and job cuts. And what's the Federal Reserve's position on the current status of the U.S. labor market? Well, they are of the opinion that our job market is, quote, unsustainably hot, end quote. And why is that? Because you have 2 job vacancies essentially for every person seeking a job. And what? That has led to a real imbalance in wage negotiating. So they're essentially saying, because there are more jobs than people looking for jobs, for once, the American worker has the upper hand in terms of negotiating wages. But instead of seeing that as the good thing that it is, the Fed chairman and his colleagues are trying to stabilize the job market because, as you can see below, he feels that you really cannot have the kind of labor market they want without price stability. But we don't see them having those kinds of concerns when it comes to the compensation of CEOs. As this article demonstrates, as well as many others on the internet, CEOs are now making 278 times what the average worker in the same industry or field is now making. What's the Fed doing about that? Oh, that's okay. The elite, the 1%, the globalists can make all the money in the world. But anytime the economy shifts to put workers in power, then there's a problem. And as that article goes on to tell us, CEOs are getting more money not because they're increasing productivity or doing anything better, but simply because of their power to set pay. What's the Federal Reserve doing about that? Nothing.